Let's talk all things child support. And that is going to be our topic for today. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice. So be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact dependent. Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is Mac Pierre-Louis, attorney, mediator, arbitrator. I work throughout Florida and Texas, and joining me today is my colleague, Sherell. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Hey, Sherell Carter. I am based out of the Houston and surrounding areas, and I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. So, Sherelle, we're going to talk today about child support law. And this is going to be the first part of a few parts. And the first one is going to be dealing with the question: should fathers put themselves on child support? You know, every state has some state agency, some child support office where you can go and open up a child support case, sometimes against yourself, and put yourself on child support, especially if you want to see your kid. So is that a good idea? And that's what we want to discuss today. And why don't you take the lead? What are your
I tell
thoughts?
you what, Mac, I get so many calls. I represent a lot of men, men and women, but I do have a strong base of men clients. And so often I hear, hey, I need help. I have an OAG case tomorrow. I have a hearing tomorrow. Like I need assistance. I'm like, well, why are you calling me now? Right. Well, they're looking at the documents the OAG is sending and all this talking about money. Right. Like, I want to see my kid. She's keeping me for my child. Like, there's so much that goes into it. Right. And
Yep.
so I always talk to them like, what made you put yourself on child support in the first place? Right. And for the most part, I believe, especially in the minority community, I'm hearing that, that's what I've been told to do. My mom said to, go put myself on child support. My girlfriend said, go put myself on child support, right? And one of the biggest things I think that they're focused on is not having to be, paying arrears. Because it's
Yep.
been known many years ago, like some people would wait and they would keep the child, 9, 10 years old or whatever. And all of a sudden, man, this child is yours. And they're wanting to come back on the father for years of back child support, right? It messes up your credit. It's difficult to be able to get certain things in life if you're not, if you got a rearage on your credit report showing that you owe $30,000, $40,000 in child support, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why the stigma or the norm is, hey, go put yourself on child support. I
Yeah,
would
that
say,
is. Yeah,
go
no, that
ahead.
is something. The whole arrears thing is a big deal. And sometimes we call it retroactive child support or back child support. So the typical person who goes in, starts from the very beginning when the child's born, doesn't need to pay any child support arrears because they're paying as they go to the state and there's an accounting. But sometimes people don't, and then they're surprised years later when somebody says, "Hey, here's your child," and I want to go back in time. But yeah, why? What do you think about this? Do you think is that a good reason to put yourself on child support or not?
Well, I would say there's pros and cons to it, right? It I would definitely say if the father does not put himself on child support, I mean, especially in the day and age that we're going in now with same-sex marriages and relationships, or maybe the mother may be more of the working person and the father is the one that's, with the child. Whoever you are, if you elect not to have, if you have a child and elect not to go to an agency or an attorney to put yourself on child support, the most important thing that you could possibly do to protect yourself is document
Mhm.
document, 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 right? So if we go with the notion of no, don't put yourself on child support, it's extremely important, even if you guys are living together, or if you got a good relationship and everything's fine. We all know not everything stays that way, right? The status quo does change, but equilibrium doesn't always work out that way. Things change. So there's a good possibility that one of those parties could be taken to court and they're asking for, like you said, retroactive child support. And in your mind, hey, we were living together. I've been taking care of this child the whole time. And if you go through the OAG and you don't have the right proof, documentation, representation in place, you're going to be stuck with strong possibility of paying, you know,
Yeah. What
retroactive child support.
What do you think about the argument somebody might make? Well, I need to put myself on child support because I want to see my child. And if I don't, then I'm kind of stuck. Pros and cons?
So I would definitely say so it needs to be clear, right? The law does not necessarily equate your money with your time with your child. And so I'm a big preponderant of that. There are some instances where maybe the person lost their job. Maybe they were the provider for many years and now they don't have the funds to be able to pay like they should, but they want to be there. They want to be a part of that child's life. That should not be a deterrent from them to be able to be a parent to, to the child. And so those two don't necessarily, one plus one doesn't necessarily equal two in those instances.
Yeah, and in many states, in all states, there's going to be a 4D agency. And Texas, for example, is going to be the Attorney General Child Support Division. In the state of Florida, for example, it's going to be the Florida Department of Revenue. And so they do the same job, which is to try to help people collect child support. So the question of should I put myself in child support? That may not even be a question you need to answer for yourself. You might be forced to because sometimes there's state benefits being received. You don't have a choice. So a lot of times people find themselves on child support because there's Medicaid or there's chips or somebody's getting TANF. And so if you don't want to put yourself on child support, you might want to make sure you keep the child off some of these public benefits. That's one big reason I've seen that they're gonna get you on there anyway.
Absolutely. I would say this: if you have a child and you're not sure if the other party has insurance, put the child on your insurance. That is going to be a safe haven for you. I've had a case before, actually not long ago, where the child was listed on Medicaid, but the father actually had the child on private insurance. And I was able to successfully rebut the OOG being in the case and getting that issue resolved because we can prove that the child was on private insurance the entire time, right? So one of the biggest reasons, as you stated, that the child support office is involved is to ensure that they get reimbursement for these state funds, TANF,
Yeah.
CHIP, Medicaid. And so that's one of the biggest things right there. If you can ensure that you are not just being there for the child, right? Being an actual parent as far as making sure that your I's are dotted and T's are crossed, putting in medical insurance, making sure that they're not getting government assistance for food stamps. And if you are and you get notified, you need to step in immediately because if there's no formal agreement in place, if there's no child support in place, you do open yourself up to, if anything, if not even arrearage, having to pay medical benefits or payment reimbursement back to the state. And even if you're not, obviously, you're not the one to do it, the other parent typically is the one that puts the child on these state benefits, and often the fathers or the person who doesn't know about it is responsible for reimbursing the state.
All right. And so before we move on to part two, Sherelle, what's the best way people can get into contact with you?
Oh, absolutely. Best way to reach me is going to my website, and all my contact information is there. It's Justice by Carter. And so, yeah, you'll find me there. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram. All the information is on my website.
All right. All right. Well, everyone, stay tuned for part two, and then we'll keep talking. Take care.
Bye, y'all.